Hi, I'm Victor. In this video, I'm going to be covering Petrobras, which is the Brazilian oil company that is really growing fast and paying a 21% dividend. Their performance is really jaw-dropping, and I wanted to build a position in this company to diversify my investments, which are predominantly in the US. And begin to look at that growth rate down in South America, where they're going to be growing faster economically than up in North America. There's a couple reasons why I like oil companies. First and foremost is my very first job out of college. I graduated in accounting. I went to work for an oil company that is now part of Chevron. So I was able to learn the oil business at some level and become familiar with oil price and how an oil company operates and so forth. So that comfort level enables me to analyze a company and have a sense of comfort when I'm looking at a company, when it's a good time to buy or sell. Oil has been a really good market for me to invest in for the last 2 years. I really poured a lot of capital into oil companies when oil prices were around $30 a barrel in 2020. I invested in Chevron further. It was a company I owned prior, but I bought far more shares, and I bought a lot of shares of Exxon. So oil was the biggest sector that I was exposed to in 2020 and 2021. Really worked out well. And I exited Exxon because I thought it really performed the way that I wanted it, and sold at a big gain at the end of 2021. Now, I still think that there is more time to capitalize and profit from the oil industry. Oil prices, I don't expect they're going to go down overnight. They're hovering at around $110 per barrel. And if you follow history or look at, historically how prices change, it's probably going to take at least a year for it to come down, and probably take, 2 to 4 years for it to come down to like $70 a barrel. It just tends to go down over time. So having that in mind, and my experience with oil companies, I believe that if an oil company is able to sell its product for about $65 per barrel, the company is going to break even. And oil companies return a lot of capital in the form of dividends and buybacks and so forth. So I think there's a lot of room left in the oil business if you pick the right companies. Petrobras is a very interesting company to me. They're very profitable and pay a huge dividend of 21%, which is why I started a small position in Petrobras and have been growing that position over time. There's 3 things I look for in an investment. First, I want a discount on that investment. And that way I can make money on the upside. So my shares, I buy them low and they go up high, and I either decide to keep, hold, or sell. And second, I want the company to be operated, and I want it to be performing well. Last, is it the right time to buy? That's really important. So you buy a good company at the right time. Let's take a look at Petrobras. So Petrobras is a fully integrated oil company. They explore, meaning they find the oil. They basically drill a hole in the surface of the earth, whether it's underwater or above water, and they get that raw crude oil out. They turn it into refined materials, whether it be diesel, gasoline, or a product that goes into the chemical complex. They might even turn it into energy. Petrobras is like other oil companies getting to biofuel, turning organic matter into fuels. And this company also provides a lot of transportation because they export 27% of their oil predominantly to China and Europe. So looking at the stock price for Petrobras over the last 5 years, you could see where it was trading sideways before 2020, and then COVID really slammed a lot of industries. It really slammed the oil business, and as mentioned, oil prices really collapsed. And you could have really made a ton of money if you bought Petrobras back in 2020, because you would have almost tripled your money, which is a great return. But you could see an upward trajectory, which is really good to see. And if we look at the 1 year, you could see that over the 1 year, you would have made 52%, which is great. But you've seen a lot of volatility. I like volatility. Volatility enables me to buy more shares in companies that I believe in. I've bought recently into Petrobras, and I bought at this dip. This is where I started really buying more shares. My initial investment started around this time frame. So I'm doing, I would say, okay right now in Petrobras. I'm close to even, and I think I'm down 2% on my investment, but they pay a huge dividend. So I think I'm going to make it up with that dividend. And I think there's more upside left in the stock. Now, to gain comfort in an investment, I like to value a company by really looking at their free cash flows that I expect over the next 20 years and discounting those free cash flows to a net present value in today's dollars. I'm going to use a couple of things here. One is that I'm going to use a very high discount rate of 15%. Reasons for that is that, in Brazil, they tend to have high inflation. Welcome to the party. And that high inflation could really cause a lot of disruption to this company. So I'm going to use a very, very high discount rate of 15%. I'm going to use a very stable long-term growth of 2%. And that'll just basically, I know that the oil business is cyclical. You have ups and downs. I think they're really enjoying a very upcycle now, but over the future, there's going to be ups and downs, and 2% ought to be reasonable to expect over 20 years. I'm taking a 2-year average free cash flow. And the reason for it is that the free cash flow for 2021 was so darn high. I thought it would just be not conservative enough to take that run rate and go into the future. So instead, I took the last 2 years, which included that 2020 year where really oil prices sank so much, and it really brought that number down. So it made it more conservative. So looking at those numbers, they're generating $27 billion of free cash flow. That was the average for the last 2 years. And I'm going to take that as a starting point and grow to 2% and discount all those future cash flows by 15% as a discount rate. I get a net present value for the company of $190 billion, but their market cap is $91.8 billion. So there is a nice discount available on Petrobras. On a per share value basis, I think the company is valued per share at $29 per share, but it's trading at $14. So currently there's about a $107 discount on Petrobras. And that's the reason why I'm investing in this company. So the performance of Petrobras has been really good. In 2021, they grew 56% top line. Their price to earnings ratio is 4.3. Those are just awesome numbers. The free cash flow, $31.4 billion of free cash flow in 2021. And their free cash flow yield is 30%. So let that sink in. 30% of their top line ends up as free cash. That's how profitable this company is right now, with oil prices at $110 per barrel. That enables them to pay a huge dividend of 21%. They grew in Q1. They announced last week. They grew just Q1 in 2022 compared to Q1 in 2021. They grew 64%. Free cash flow, almost $8 billion. And their free cash flow growth compared Q1 2022 to Q1 2021 grew 30%. They export 27% of oil, which is a good thing for me because I like to see that they're getting hard currencies from China and Europe to really solidify or stabilize their revenue, since they sell predominantly within Brazil. My outlook is that this stock has good upside. It has a huge dividend. So if they just pay that dividend and stay around the same stock price, I win. If their stock price goes up and they pay the huge dividend, I win times 2. So I really like my outlook for this stock. I think that oil prices will remain high in 2022 and probably into 2023, and demand will remain high. I think the global economy and regional economies around the world are really getting going, and supply chains are really tight. So a lot of transportation has to happen. And therefore, I believe demand is going to stay high for oil and diesel. I'm adding positions to, I would call it a small medium position that I have in Petrobras. And the reason for it is Chevron is my biggest position. Love having Chevron. I'm keeping my Chevron position, for the long term. But I just like to diversify, into another region of the world with another company and have that diversification within the same sector. I also buy corporate bonds, and I have corporate bonds with Pemex down in Mexico. I own, I would say, a small medium position of corporate bonds with Pemex, and I own a very small position in Occidental Petroleum corporate bonds as well. And those two bonds pay a nice rate. One pays about 10%, which is Pemex, and then Occidental pays upwards of 8% yield on my corporate bonds. So as you can tell, I'm really invested in the oil business, but I like to diversify to some extent within the sector. So the scorecard for Petrobras is positive. They offer up a nice discount currently, and they pay that huge dividend. So that gets a really good check mark. The company is well operated. It's performing great. So really good job to all the employees at Petrobras. And the timing's really good. I think that the oil business is one of those things that once it gets going, it stays going for a while. Once it goes down, sometimes it stays down for a while. And right now they're on an upcycle, and that upcycle is going to stick around for a couple of years. Judging from the other market conditions, the S&P index is down 14%. There's just not a lot of options in 2022 to invest. The oil business is working. It's one of those bright spots from an investor perspective that it's out there. So I'm going to continue to buy Petrobras. So this video is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not recommending that you buy Petrobras stock or any other stock or security. I like sharing my experiences. I invest in companies. In this case, I'm an investor, Petrobras, and I hope you found it interesting. All right, thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. If you like content like this, hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you hit that bell, you'll be notified when I create a new video. Good luck investing in 2022.